this video, we're going to talk about updating and upgrading our Drupal installation, including both Drupal core and contributed modules. You've probably heard the saying, the drop never stands still. Well, at Drupal, that means that there's continuously upgrades to the Drupal core software, including improvements to the way it works and, more importantly, security updates. Let's take a look at how we can apply those security updates in a safe manner on our site. So you've got your site done. It's been up and running for a couple of weeks, and you're clicking around one day, and you notice up at the top of the administration screens, this big red box says there's a security update available for your version of Drupal. To ensure the security of your server, you should update immediately. And panic sets in. You start to wonder, what's this all about, and where did it come from? One of the cool things about Drupal is a module that comes with Drupal core called the Update Manager. If you don't have it enabled, you're not going to see this box. And I'd recommend going to Modules, scrolling down the page, and turning on the Update Manager module. What the Update Manager module does is periodically phone home to Drupal.org and find out about any updates to Drupal core itself or the modules that you've got installed. You'll note that when you're looking at the modules page here, you can see the version number. So I'm looking at Update Manager and the version number is 7.10. So that tells me I'm running Drupal 7.10 right now. You can scroll down and look at some of your other modules. I've got the development modules installed. Devel here, I've got 7.x-1.2. Over time, new versions of these modules come out, and I'm going to want to install those and update them on my site. The way the Update Manager module works is it knows which modules you've got installed, and it knows this version number here. And it can phone home to Drupal.org and say, here's a list of all the modules that I've got on my site and the version that I'm running. Are there any updates that I need to apply? And if there are, you'll get messages like this. In addition to these messages that pop up on the top of the screen, you can also go to the Reports tab. Under Status Report here, which is a good page to just kind of occasionally check and make sure that everything is sane on my site. It'll show me that there are Drupal core updates that I need to apply. It says they're not secure too. So red here indicates to me that not only is there an update, but the update contains some kind of security fix. So something about my current site is insecure. If I update to this new version, 7.12, I will be secure again. Yellow, like on the module and theme updates here, shows me that there are updates available for some of my modules or themes, but they're not necessarily security updates. They might just be functionality improvements or just sort of general updates to the module. Red, I definitely want to take care of these as soon as I can. Yellow, I'm not too worried about it at the moment, unless it contains some kind of functionality that I might want to make use of. Another place I can find more information about this is if I go to the Reports tab, and then I click on Available Updates. This gives me a little bit more information about what all needs updating. Drupal core, it's saying there's a security update that's required. I'm currently running 7.10. I should upgrade to 7.12 is the recommended version. Last check 24 minutes and 15 seconds ago. It does this periodically on a cron run when you've got cron configured. You can also take a look at all the modules that are installed, and it's showing me that the Views module is currently out of date. There's a new recommended version, 7.x-3.3. It's not a security update, so I don't have to update right away, but I might as well. So let's take a look at how we would do that. Before we take a look at how to do these updates, let's take a look at the settings that are available for the Update Manager module. So when I go to Reports and then click on the Available Updates report, on the top over here there's this Settings tab. I'm going to go to the Settings there, and this will allow me to configure the Update Manager module. How often do I want to check for updates, daily or weekly? Whether or not I want to check for updates of disabled modules and themes. So what it does by default is it only checks for updates for modules or themes that I've got turned on. One of the handy things I can do is actually tell it to send me an email whenever it finds that there's updates available. I'll typically do this for a site that's in production. I'll set this to either my own email address or like webmaster@, so that someone is getting notified when there's available updates without having to come and check the available updates report all the time. And then I can set an email notification threshold. Basically, do I want to get emailed for all new versions or just security updates? I'll usually set this to only security updates. I want to make sure that I'm getting emailed when there's security updates for my site so I can get those applied pretty quickly. New versions I'm not as worried about, and I'll just sort of take care of those as they come up in the general flow of things. I'll save that configuration. Okay, so now we're ready to perform these updates. We've got two of them that we need to perform. One of them is the security update for Drupal core, moving Drupal core from 7.10 to 7.12. The other one that we're going to take a look at is updating the views module here. We'll actually do this one first. When updating a module, what we're going to do is go to Drupal.org, download a copy of that module's latest code, and replace it on our Drupal installation. Then run Drupal's update.php script to get any database schema changes. Make sure that our database is up to date as well. Before we do any of that though, it's probably a good idea to make a backup. You'll want to make a backup of both your site's database and the code that makes up your site to make sure that if anything goes wrong, you can easily roll back to a previous version. If you're using version control, your file should be backed up already. You are using version control, aren't you? If you're not, there's a couple of videos on Drupalize Me about making use of Git as a version control system that I would highly recommend taking a look at. Once you've got your code in version control, you've basically got a backup. The other thing you'll need to do is make a database snapshot. That's pretty easy to do using a tool like phpMyAdmin. When I'm looking at phpMyAdmin, up at the top there's this export tab. I'm going to use this to just export a snapshot of my database. I'm going to leave all the options as is here, and I'll just say save as file. I'll select gzipped just to compress the output a little bit, and click go. This will make me a copy of my database that just in case anything goes wrong, I can always revert to that. Okay. Another tool that I find very handy for making backups is the Backup and Migrate module. This is nice. You can install it on your Drupal site and use it to do what we just did with phpMyAdmin. Click a link, it'll give you a backup. You can also use it to schedule regular backups. If you have cron configured, you could say, make a backup of my site every hour or every night at midnight and so forth. It's a handy module for making backups. So now that we've got our site backed up, let's go back to the site itself, and we're going to deal with updating the views module here. On our site, we can click this Update tab up at the top. One of the other things that the Update Manager allows us to do is actually update modules right through the Drupal UI itself. Again, you're still going to want to make sure that you have a backup of your code, because when I check this box, what it's going to do is go out to Drupal.org and download a new copy of views and replace my existing copy. It's replacing it, so again, making sure I've got a backup. I'm going to click download these updates. We just give it a second to go ping Drupal.org, get a copy of the files. It'll actually prompt us to make sure that we've made a backup of our database before continuing. Thank you. Perform updates with the site in maintenance mode, strongly recommended. I'm going to say yes to that too. What this is going to do, when I click continue, it's actually going to put my site into maintenance mode, update my code, run the update.php script for me, and then put my site back into regular non-maintenance mode. We'll take a look at all of those settings themselves so you can see where they are. I'm going to click continue. And we give our site a minute to take care of some business. It says the update was completed successfully. Your site has been taken out of maintenance mode. It tells me a little bit about what happened, next steps that I want to take. It says your modules have been downloaded and updated. Would you like to run the database updates? So yeah, I'm going to do that. So what this does is it takes me to the script update.php inside of my Drupal root directory. This is a special script in Drupal that takes care of performing database updates. Modules in Drupal core itself can contain updates to the schema of our database. So anytime we make an update, we want to make sure that we run the update.php script. This once again tells us that we should make a backup of our database, make a backup of our code, put your site into maintenance mode, and install your new files in the appropriate location. We can confirm that our site's in maintenance mode by clicking on the link here for maintenance mode. No, it's not actually. So what happened was it put our site into maintenance mode when it downloaded the code before, but then took it back out of maintenance mode. I'm going to put my site into maintenance mode here. What this is going to do is anytime someone tries to view my site that is not an administrator, they're going to be shown this maintenance mode message. This just ensures that those users aren't able to log into the site and do things like add a new comment while I'm in the middle of updating my database. I'll save configuration. So that's done. Now I can go back to my update.php script. So I'll just do that by typing it in manually here. And then click continue. It shows me the updates that it's going to run. In this case, it's got one pending update. So the views module has a database schema update that it needs to run. You're not always going to see database updates for every time you update the code. If that was the case, I would come here and it would tell me that there were no updates that needed to be run, and I'd be done performing my module's update. In this case, I need to run the views module 7301 update, which is going to enlarge the name column. So I click apply pending updates. It takes care of all the schema changes for me. It says everything is finished just fine. Had it not been, there would be errors displayed on this page telling me what went wrong. And I can now go back to my site, either the front page or the administration pages. It's usually a good idea to just double check your front page and maybe a few other pages to make sure that things are still working before you take it out of maintenance mode. My front page looks good. I could click around and look at a few views. Once I feel content that everything is working, I can click here to put my site back online or take it out of maintenance mode. I go to the maintenance mode page, uncheck the box, and save. So my settings have been saved. There we go. Now, just to confirm that that worked, I can go to Reports, Available Updates, if I scroll down, I should see that Views is now up to date. Awesome. Now we need to take care of this Drupal core update. This is a little bit trickier. I can go over here and click on the Update tab, and it tells me that Drupal core needs to be updated, but I don't have a handy checkbox to download and perform the update. Drupal core can't actually update itself, so we need to perform a couple of manual steps here. The first thing that I need to do is get a copy of the new code. I can go over to Drupal.org, and I'll just go to the Drupal project page, download and extend, download Drupal 7.12, the latest version, and go there. I'm going to download that zip file. Once the zip file is downloaded, I'll go ahead and unzip that file so I can see all the code. Oh, there's our database snapshot that we made before, so we have a backup just in case anything goes wrong. So I've got the unzipped file there, and then what I want to do is I actually want to replace all of the Drupal core code in our Drupal site with the new code that I just downloaded. All of it, that is, except for the sites folder. This sites folder in Drupal has a somewhat special meaning. Everything inside of the sites folder is considered to be custom or specific to my site. Things like all the modules I've downloaded in here, settings.php, which contains my database credentials, all of the files that were uploaded by users and so forth. All of that stuff lives inside of my sites directory, so I don't want to replace that. This is one of the reasons that we always recommend that when you install new modules or themes, you do so inside of sites all modules instead of in the Drupal root modules directory. This way, I can be assured that everything that's in the root modules directory is actually part of Drupal core. And it makes it really easy when I'm ready to perform an update to do something like this. I'm going to take all of the new Drupal 7.12 code that I just downloaded and copy that next to my doc root directory for my existing Drupal site. Then what I'll do is I'm going to rename this directory to something different. We'll just name it -back. Rename the Drupal -7.12 directory to doc root. And then from our old doc root directory, I'm going to take this entire sites folder and put it into the new Drupal core code and replace the existing sites folder in there. So what I've done is download a new copy of the Drupal core code, unzipped it, and then taken the sites folder from my old installation and moved it into the new Drupal core code. That way all of my modules, database settings, and user-generated files are still going to be there, and I get all of the new Drupal core code. One of the reasons that I like to do it this way is that there's actually some files that can pretty easily get missed. For example, there's a .htaccess file that's part of Drupal core that you can't actually see because it's hidden by default. If I had done this the other way around, where I unzipped the new Drupal code and then tried to just say copy all of this on top of my existing code, I might accidentally forget some of those files like the .htaccess. So this just ensures that I'm getting everything. So now I can go back to my site, and I'll need to go to the update.php script one more time. So I'll go, I'll just type it in manually this time, update.php. Remember, we need to do this anytime we add updates to our site, just to make sure that we have the most up-to-date database schema. This reminds me to back up my database and back up my code. I just did that. I'm reasonably comfortable that my backup is up to date enough, so I'm not going to do that a second time right now. If this was production data, however, I would make a database backup for each time that I perform one of these updates. I will put my site into maintenance mode though, just in case anything goes wrong. I'll put it into maintenance mode. And I can go back to the update script, and I'll click continue. It says there's 4 pending updates. So I can take a look at those. It tells me what's getting updated. Looks like the system module, image module, and menu module all have a couple of schema changes. I'll go ahead and apply those. Cross my fingers, hope it works. Wait a couple seconds. Looks like it worked just fine. There weren't any errors here. So I'm going to navigate back to the administration pages on my site. That looks good. I'll put my site back into online mode. And if I go and view reports, just to confirm that this worked, I can take a look at available updates, and I should see everything in green now. Great. So now we've got both Drupal core and all of our modules up to date. A couple of things that I would recommend for anybody that maintains a Drupal site. Drupal.org has a mailing list that you can sign up for that will send you an email anytime there's a security announcement. I highly recommend signing up for it. That way, you'll get an email whenever Drupal core or one of the contributed modules has a security release. Then you can get a pretty good idea of when you're going to need to update your site. There's a couple of other ways that you can find this information. There's a @DrupalSecurity account on Twitter. You could follow that. You could also just follow the RSS feed for the security advisories page here, and just keep a poll on when new security updates are coming out. For reference, security updates generally come out on Wednesdays. The idea is if they come out in the middle of the week and it's an important security update for you, you have time during the week to make sure that you take care of that. If we release security updates on Friday, people would start to get a little bit upset when at 6 p.m. on Friday they get a security announcement and then they need to spend their weekend updating their Drupal site. That said, when you do get a security announcement, it's a pretty good idea to read through it, make sure you understand the consequences of that update and what you're exposing if you don't perform that update right away, and then make sure that you perform security updates in a timely manner.